So, welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Safa Mirror, and I'm a transdisciplinary artist and researcher delving into Western esotericism, mostly tarot and magic, and also Sufism through translating the Persian poetry of Rumi and Hafez. So, today, I'm going to talk about Aleister Crowley's method of divination by the tarot. And there were many ideas of how to do this, and I was thinking about what would be the best way. And I came up with some ideas, and I was creating the PowerPoint for it. And then this whole experience in the occulture changed me a lot. And finally, I decided to basically perform it. So we're going to do the reading today together, all of us. And through performing it, I will talk about how it's done. And basically, breathing. I have developed a kind of methodology into understanding how it functions and how it works, because it's a, as some of you might know, it's really complicated and big method of divination. So before we get into it, I just want to understand how many of you have a tarot deck with you right now? How many of you have a tarot deck at home? Thank you. How many of you use the tarot for your work and also for giving readings to others? Okay, and how many of you do not know how the tarot functions in general? Or like, you know, but you don't work with it? Okay, good. So I'm sorry for the two of you, because I'm going to talk about many things, and I'm just going to... I'm not going to explain many things. I'm just going to assume that you know many of the things that I'm talking about. Is it working, or? Oh, yeah, okay. And that's also how Crowley wrote in general, how he was speaking to a public that he thought knows many of the stuff. So I'm not going to get into how Crowley writes in general, but we will see how it goes. So first of all, I'm going to talk about my methodologies for coming up with my system, or a way to understand and incorporate this system into my practice. The first one is Western esotericism. If you were here yesterday, there was a triad of beautiful lectures in the afternoon about what Western esotericism is as an academic approach. So in general, it's an academic methodology into understanding occult sciences and practices. And how it works is they look at the history, they look at the culture, they look at all the texts that these people wrote, all the texts that these people read, all the letters that they would send to each other, and they would kind of like a detective work, deconstruct the whole psyche of this person, and in more weird terms of it, they use psychology and society studies to understand how these people thought and functioned, to kind of come up with an understanding of why they created these practices and what these practices meant for them, and how they can be used for practitioners today. And I use all these images of Hermes because it's fun. So this is the first methodology that I use to understand how did Crowley come up with this. What was the history about this method? And we will get to that. But that's the methodology for understanding the method and how it functions and why it functions the way that it does. But the second methodology is my way of incorporating it into my practice as someone who was not initiated officially into a system or into an order, but rather I just want to figure out how it works. And that methodology is called decolonization. So decolonization, it's huge and it's a scary word, but I'm just going to boil it down into how it can be functioned. First of all, I must say, the reason that I chose decolonization is I would look at, for example, a picture like this, and all I see is that Crowley had a passport that could go to Egypt and dress like that. But my dad sold everything he owned for me to come to Netherlands. And the way that I am studying these practices is so different from the way that Crowley learned about Egypt and incorporated that into his practice. And I tried to understand what is the difference. Me trying to go to the Embassy of the Free Mind in Amsterdam to read all those books is so different from Crowley going to the Middle East and talking to the sages of that time. Because also I was Iranian and there were some white people that would come. And the way that I treated those white people was so different from people treat me here. So I was like, okay, there must be something here. So I started to read more in the history from the perspective of the colonized. And by the perspective of colonized, you can see here, this is a picture of Jewish requisition in Spain. And of course, that's dramatic imagery. So in general, I try to understand how decolonization works, because I thought, okay, this could be a way to move past this feeling, this kind of resentment that I have, or this kind of difficulty of situating myself in the West, trying to understand Western esotericism. And not even, actually, I am going to mention, the inspiration for really going into decolonization came from reading Coleman Barks's translations of Rumi, which is shit. Everything you know of Rumi comes from Coleman Barks. Well, I am generalizing, but that's what colonization is. Everything that you know of Rumi comes from Coleman Barks, and it's horrible. It's like maybe 0.5% of what Rumi is. And I look, okay, this is Coleman Barks, who doesn't speak Persian, retranslating translations of people who were in the 19th century, and coming up with these things. So I trace this as a Persian who understands Rumi and understands this poetry, and I'm like, okay, this needs to be destroyed completely and be rebuilt. And I'm like, okay, the same path goes with Kabbalah. Crowley didn't know Hebrew, and MacGregor Mathers probably didn't know Hebrew, or not as well. And their sources were these Latin translations of Kabbalistic texts that came in the 16th or 17th century, and they were done by Gentiles or ex-Jews who were in a specific part of Kabbalah, from a specific tradition. And there are like thousands other traditions, and a lot of work is being done today on Kabbalah. So decolonization, in that regard, for me has a certain sense when I look at Rumi. I hope you got this. But enough theory of the decolonization, and I will talk about how this methodology works as a function in creating your own method of understanding these ancient practices. And it's quite simple. So you have a practice, for example, this method of divination, and then you look at what is the theory behind it, because you will see it's going to talk about Kabbalah, it's going to talk about astrology, it's going to talk about numerology and all these things, and they are a theory, and they have been developed over the years. And then you look at the history of that theory, how it was developed, where did it come from, how different people had different perspectives. I know it's too much work for a practitioner, but there are scholars like me who does this work, and you can read us. And then you finally reach the original source. Where was it? Normally, the original source is an Arabic source, because the Greek texts were kind of lost, and Arabic translations were the main ones. Also, another lecture yesterday, the second one by the lady that I don't remember her name, was about this. She did talk about this, that in the end, all magical practices reaches Arabia. And then when you reach the original source, with some luck and finding some friends, you can get an understanding of how that functioned, from where it came from. And then you kind of retrace that. By retracing, I mean, you see the original source, and instead of following the history of how it was taken by the Europeans, and taken by Rosicrucians, and taken by Freemasons, and then taken by Golden Dawn, and how it evolved through that, you kind of retrace it into how it actually developed in the Middle East. What happened there? What happened to it after, for example, Islam had all these things? What happened after colonization came? What happened after the modernizations came? And you just kind of see, and in this retrace, you kind of find new practices, and it's so fun. Find contemporary people in the Middle East doing these things, which is really cool. And I'm one of them. And then you find kind of reconstruct it. You kind of change the theory that was there, and you reconstruct the system by the understandings that you have got. And this is the main thing that I'm trying to do in life, to show that decolonization does not mean white people bad and colored people good. It means that there's a system that is developed by the oppressor to steal from the oppressed. And if you just change this system and see yourself as the oppressed, you can kind of reconstruct something authentic that is yours, that is true, and it's free from the decolonization that has happened. So I think I'm losing a lot of time. I'm talking a lot. What time is it? Where is my phone? 10:30? No. Oh, nice. So let me find my phone because I need it. Shit. Now, but I wanted to take pictures of the cards because we're going to do fancy things. So we will find it, don't worry. Maybe, but no, we will find it. Oh yeah, here it is. So let's look at the history of this method, which originally it was called opening of the key. And we don't know where does this etymology come from, what does it mean. Personally, I think it has something to do with the Key of Solomon. So it's kind of like before engaging in that ritual and finding the Key of Solomon, whatever that is, you kind of have to find a key. And it's kind of like open it. It's kind of like, imagine it's a lock. And then you deconstruct the lock. And instead of opening it, it actually gives you a key. And that key can do other things. And I like the Arabic translation of it way more. It's like, it's more sound. It's Fathul Miftah. I like that sound more than opening of the key. So I just put it there for fun. Also, I speak Persian, and Arabic is different, but it's, anyway. So the history of it is that it's probably created by MacGregor Mathers, which is amazing. Like this person, the things that he did for the tarot specifically is divine. And everything that we know of tarot basically comes from here. And by we, I mean most occultists. Either you're from the Thoth system or the Rider-Waite-Smith system, you are learning MacGregor Mathers system. And this method was given to the students or the Adeptus minor grade of the Golden Dawn, which is actually becomes the inner order of the Golden Dawn, because the Golden Dawn was the outer order, and then when you initiate it higher, you would reach the order of Rose of Ruby and Cross of Gold. So it was really hidden, and it was not given to everyone. So you're privileged to read about it. And we have that privilege thanks to Aleister Crowley, who first published it in the Equinox, Volume 1, 1909, which was epic of him to impart all this wisdom out into the world and publish it. And he paid the price for it by becoming the wickedest man in the world, and the beast, and 666. And he got off on that, actually. So the second time that it was published, it was in the 1984 by Israel Regardie in the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic. And there are differences between these two. Crowley's is really just a really simple method, like saying it in like 5 pages. But Israel Regardie gets into it, to the details of it, and how the Golden Dawn members would do it. And I haven't done work on Israel Regardie to understand how he came up with that, what kind of texts he used. And it's not that important because it's not called Israel Regardie's Method of Divination. It's called Aleister Crowley's Method of Divination, this workshop. So we're going to read Aleister Crowley's Method of Divination, or how he talks about it. And just wanted to mention briefly, there is one instance in history that a Golden Dawn member did this reading. And that is in the book, Woman of the Golden Dawn by Mary K. Greer. Amazing book. If you are feminist in any sense, read this book. it just talks about what was the role of women of the Golden Dawn. And the only woman of Golden Dawn that we know is Pamela Smith, and that's not enough. We should know what they did. And yeah, and it was a series of readings done by Annie Horniman, and she did these readings for her theater, Abbey Theater, of what's going to happen to this theater. 4 readings, and the last important one was October 9, 1903, and you have a picture of it, which is not okay. And we know of this reading because she wrote it in her letters to W.B. Yeats. And it talks about it in the book about how she did it. And there's also another book by a theater historian who actually sees that her reading came true. And the things that she saw in the reading actually happened to the Abbey Theater. So it's fun to know that this method works. So now we are going to read from the book. And I think I will only have time to do the first operation, but it's okay. And that's actually how they did it in the Golden Dawn. Both Israel Regardie and Annie Horniman talk about the idea that out of the 5 operations, you only need to do the first operation. It's really rare that you continue. So we'll see. So I'm just going to read from Crowley and kind of decipher Crowley. And that's my dream, to decipher Crowley at Occulture. So, but it's quite straightforward, and it doesn't need to be explained that much. So it's in the Appendix A, or Appendix 1 of the Book of Thoth, and it's a chapter called The Behavior of the Tarot. It now being established at the conclusion of the essay that the cards of the tarot are living individuals, it is proper to consider the relations which obtain between them and the student. So that's why I asked if you know about tarot, because this essay is put at the end of his book after he talks about what the tarot is, and now you have an understanding of what each card means. And now we are going to go into what kind of relationship these cards create between themselves and between you. This is what this method is for. Consider the analogy of a debutante at her coming out ball. She is introduced to 78 grown people. Assuming her to be a particularly intelligent girl with a very high social education, she may know all about the position and general characteristics of these people. This, however, will not imply real knowledge of any one of them. She will have no means of saying how anyone will react to her. At most, she can only know a few facts from which deductions may be made. It is unlikely, for example, that the CV will hide in a cellar if somebody thinks that there is a burglar in the house. It is improbable that the bishop will indulge in the more blatant types of blasphemy. So, we are all debutantes. 16-year-old little girls who are now being introduced to society, and they are introduced to all these grown people. And she knows of them. She knows that's the lawyer. She knows that's the VC. And she knows that's the chief of police, and that's the bishop. And she knows how these people function, but she cannot know how they will react to her. All that she can say is that the bishop, for example, won't start saying, "Fuck God." That's all she knows. The position of the student of the tarot is very similar. Oh, are we in the same? No, I have to go to the next. The position of the student of the tarot is very similar. In this essay and in these designs is given an analysis of the general character of each card, but she cannot reach any true appreciation of them without observing their behavior over a long period. They can only come to an understanding of the tarot through experience. It will not be sufficient for they to intensify their studies of the cards as objective things. They must use them. They must live with them. The cards, too, must live with them. A card is not isolated from its fellows. The reactions of the cards, their interplay with each other, must be built into the very life of the student. So as tarot cards are living beings, you have to create a personal relationship with each card. That card should be a part of your life to a certain degree that, for example, a court card represents your mom, and that person changes also, like it becomes someone else. You see, and in the further you go, as you get more initiated, you see that it's not only a court card is your mom, but also what your mom did to you and what part of you is your mom, and that part is the court card. And what actions do you do during the day becomes the minor cards. Like when you react to the cashier when they're like, yeah, I don't know. That becomes, for example, the Two of Cups in that moment of your life, or the Three of Swords in that moment. That's what Crowley is saying here must happen. You must own, like the tarot cards should be on your face all the time. He's a bit radical when it comes to tarot, and that's also how I love him. So then how are they to use them? How are you to use the cards in this sense? How are they to blend their life with them? Okay, this is difficult. How is he to blend their life with his? The ideal way is that of contemplation. But this involves initiation of such high degree that is impossible to describe the method in this place. Nor is it either attractive or suitable to most people. The practical, everyday, commonplace way is divination. The traditional technical method of divination by the tarot here follows. It is taken from the Equinox, Volume 1, Number 8, and its publication is authorized by Frater O.M. Adeptus Exemptus. So what he is saying is that you need to look at the cards 12 hours a day to remember everything about it when you close your eyes, basically. It's just my way of describing it. Of course, he means contemplation, and as he said, it requires a high level of initiation to even talk about it, of what it means to look at the cards for 20 hours a day until it's in your soul. And of course, it's not attractive. No one wants to do this. I did it. And it's not suitable to most people. I did it also. But the common way, the practical way, is to do tarot readings. Just you do tarot readings. And it's one of the fun things about tarot for myself, that it's like a trap. It's like, yeah, let's do tarot readings. And then you do tarot readings, and your whole life changes. It's the way that it's beautiful. And also in the end, he says, I published it, and it's authorized by Frater O.M. Adeptus Exemptus, which is himself. He calls himself that. He's like, I'm the best. So before we get into it, there is some necessities with this method. It is quite impossible to obtain satisfactory results from this or any other system of divination unless the art is perfectly required. It is the most sensitive, most difficult, and most perilous branch of magic. The necessary conditions with a comprehensive comparative review of all important methods in use are fully described and discussed in Magic Chapter 15. So he's saying you can't just open, like put your cards and say some things like it's a method. You have to put everything into it. You have to put your whole day into it. You have to wash yourself, you have to wash your clothes, you have to brush your teeth, you have to meditate, you have to do the pentagram, you have to do all these things, and then do the method. And then actually what he talks about here is after the divination, that you have to close it, you have to write it down, you have to integrate that into your life, and you have to do all these things. And I'm just going to, I think we don't have time for me to do the next bit, which was I wanted us to do a kind of a meditation together, but I'm just going to talk about it, and then you do it later. And this is what I do at the beginning of everything that I do, basically, at the beginning of the day, beginning of everything, which is I take out the aces of the minor arcana. I put them in this order: Ace of Wands, Ace of Cups, Ace of Swords, and Ace of Discs, from right to left. And I sit down, and let me go down here, actually. And I look at the Ace of Wands, and I breathe in. And I hold, and I look at the Ace of Cups. And I breathe out, and I look at the Ace of Swords. And I hold, looking at the Ace of Discs. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. hold. And then you repeat this until a rhythm is created in your breathing. And then after some time, you close your eyes and you continue this, but this time with breathing in, you remember the Ace of Wands, whatever it looked like. And then you hold, you remember the Ace of Cups, and then you breathe out, you remember the Ace of Swords, and then you hold, remember the Ace of Discs. And this way you can understand what the Key of Solomon is. Ooh, I'm talking like Crowley. So then we start the method. So, yeah, we're going to start the method. Ooh, this is the scary part. And I'm already running out of time. So the first thing that you need to do for the method of divination called opening of the key or Fathul Miftah is you pick a significator card. And this significator card is so different from significator card in the horrible Celtic cross method. I'm sorry, I don't like that method. So basically, the significator card is you. It becomes you, and then you find who you are and what's going to happen to you by the relationship that this card in the deck creates with all the other cards. So we don't take it out of the deck. That's why I don't like the Celtic cross. And how you choose the significator card, I'm going to read the phrase that Crowley wrote about the significator. Choose a card to represent the current or yourself, using your knowledge or judgment of his character rather than dwelling on his physical characteristics. So he says, choose based on your judgment of their character instead of dwelling on their physical characteristics. The reason that he mentions not to use physical characteristics is because if you read the Israel Regardie version, in the Golden Dawn, they would say, look at the person. If they are white, it's wands and cups. If they are brown or less, it's discs and swords. And if they're young, it's princes and princes, or if they're old, it's kings and queens, which is ageist and sexist. So Crowley, being progressive, he was like, no, it's character. And unfortunately, Crowley was before Jung, so he didn't know about character types. If he knew, we would have a much amazing tarot deck. But we're doing this. So, and also, this implies that the significator must be a court card. But must not. You can choose any other deck. There are some practitioners today, like Barlow Hughes, who just uses the first card of the pile as a significator. But I find it in this book that actually Crowley means a court card, and not just any court card, but actually a specific court card. And that is your rising sign. And I have my arguments on why that is, but we're not going to get into it. I'm just going to really fast forward through it. Is that, so we have two court cards, and the Queen of Swords and the Prince of Wands are the only court cards in the Book of Thoth Tarot that have their eyes open. And this is Crowley's sun sign card, and this is Crowley's rising ascendant zodiac card. So he gives them more precedence and more importance. And add to that, between these two, and I've used both of them, both my rising sign and my sun sign, and it gets really accurate. But Crowley gives more precedence to the rising sign because his seal, as you can see in the Ace of Discs, and he made it himself, and also it is on the chest of the Prince of Wands. And he associated himself with Leo a lot, both in his signature, and also he put his seal on the Five of Wands as well, which is attributed to the decan that his ascendant was. So basically, it's just like Crowley picked this for his significator, and it's also my ascendant. Yay! So I use that, and this is what we're going to use today as well. The court card attributed to your ascendant. And if you don't know which one that is, go check it out. There are ways. So after you picked the significator, the first thing you do is you take the cards in your hand. And I'm going to use early edition 1970s Thoth Tarot deck, gifted to me by Dr. Peter Forshaw, lovely man, and I cherish this a lot. And it's a big deal that I brought it all the way from Amsterdam to here. I hope it doesn't break. And we're going to use that for today. So this is the invocation. I'm going to perform it as how I read it. You can find your own way. I'm just going to talk about two things, about Iao and HRU. Iao is the name of God, of course. So you invoke Iao, and you tell Iao to send this angel, HRU, which is a version of Heru, or Heru Raha, which is the god Horus in Thelema. And also Heru, this version of Heru Raha resides over the tarot. And I don't like invoking gods or angels that I don't know. And my only knowledge of them is through Crowley or people like Crowley. So I find their history, like the methodology that I said, and I come up with my way. So instead of Iau, I'm going to use Ya'u, which is a Persian translation of Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He. And instead of Heru, I'm going to use Ruh, which is the angel that the Persian poets would invoke to come and tell them the poetry. So this is the two things that I'm going to use. But you can use Iau, or you can use Heru, or you can use any kind of angel that you like. So let me get into the mood. I invoke thee, Ya'u, that thou send the great angel, Ru, who is set over the operations of this secret wisdom, to lay his hand invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things, to the glory of thine ineffable name. Amen. So as you can see, you put the card in your left hand, and you put your right hand or your wand on top of it. Or some people say you can use your dominant hand, like you put it on the less dominant hand and use the dominant hand. But the wand should be on it when you invoke. And after you invoke, you give it to the current, or you do it yourself. You shuffle. And now I'm going to ask my associate to come help with this part. And you shuffle. You can use any kind of shuffle that you like. It doesn't matter. And the better you shuffle, the more new the reading is going to be. Because I used to do this method. In order to understand this method, I did it almost every day for a year. And I went all the methods. It was COVID. I had a lot of time. So if you don't shuffle enough, the same patterns that happened in the previous reading shows up. And sometimes I like that. For example, I do a reading for someone else, and then I do a reading for myself, and that person lingers in the patterns. Because you're using all of the deck. It's not just one card. But if you want to be thorough and just want something completely new, just just throw the deck everywhere and just pick all the cards. I'll do all these things. But one thing that you do when you are shuffling is you think about the question. So as I am shuffling, I am thinking about the question today. What is the question today? And the question is so difficult because we're all together and you all have different questions. But I think when you come to a culture, one of the questions that everybody has is, what the fuck am I doing? What is this? Why am I doing these rituals and perfecting myself in my mind, and no one sees it, and I should keep silent and not show it to anyone? Why do I do this? So I'm going to turn that question into, how can I better the world by doing something that only I see in my chambers. So now we are going to get into the first operation. And how we do it is, actually, can someone give me a tarot deck? Really quick. Does anyone have a tarot deck? Yes, please. Thank you. I just want to show demonstrations of it as she's counting over there. So what you do is, can anyone see this? So you shuffle, and then you put it down. And then you pick the top half, and then you put that top half to the left of it. And then you do the same with the two halves as well. You put the top half, and you put it here, and also you put the top half here, and you put it here. And then you have 4 piles in front of you, each containing 1/4 of the deck. In the Golden Dawn Israeli Guarded system, it says you have to be careful to make it as accurate as you want. Some practitioners are like, no, I'm just going to pick however much I like. It doesn't matter. I do this extreme, and I count. So I count 19 cards, and I put it on the left side, and then 20 cards on the third one, and then 19 cards on the second one, and 20 cards on the first one. And there are reasons for that, but I'm going to keep silent for now. Yes. Most of the things that I say here you can find elsewhere, but yeah. So you pick the top half, put it left. And then you pick, again, the top half here, and you put it here. And then you pick the top half here, and you put it here. So, and then you have these. Thank you so much for your deck. We have these 4 piles. And these 4 piles, for the first operation, represent the 4 letters of the name, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. And I assume, shit, what was that? And I assume you know what this is. Yes? Like I said, so you put the deck here, and then you pick the top half, and you put it here. And then you pick the top half, and you put it here. And then you pick the top half, and then you put it here. So this one is yes, exactly. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Yeah, it's not important for now here, because I'm going to take a picture of this and put it here. Don't worry about it. So you have the 4 piles, and these represent Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. And of course, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey in Crowley's system and the Golden Dawn system represents the 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth. How they function, how these 4 elements mean. And basically, for me, magic means understanding what Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey means, and understanding what fire, water, air, earth means. Like, that's basically, if you understand these things, you know magic. And you do magic to understand these things. And in the method of tarot, Crowley says these 4 piles actually, when you're talking about divination, this is what these 4 piles mean in the way that Crowley talks about them. The Yod pack is about work, business, etc. The Hay pack, or the water pile pack, the second one, is love, marriage, or pleasure. The Vav pack, or the third pack, is trouble, loss, scandal, quarreling, etc. And the final pack is money, goods, and such purely material matters. So he talks really practical in if you pick one of these piles, what they mean. And I just put them in these keywords attributed to Yod and the element of fire. The first pile is your ambitions, your big projects that you have. You want something to happen, and you only vision the result. You see the final outcome. It's your fire going to the beyond of what it wants to be. And then the second one is emotions. What are your feelings about this outcome? Why do you want to gain this? Is it because you're sad and you want to be happy? Or is it because you're happy and you want to extend that happiness to others? Or is it because you're angry and you want to hurt someone? Or is it because you're in love and you want to express that love? The second one, emotions, explain the reasonings for the ambitions. And these combined together create the decisions. How do you want to reach that? Why do you want to reach that? And what decisions and steps can be made to reach the ambition that you have. And finally, manifestations is what are the things that you have and you own, and what are the things that you are going to have and you are going to own and receive, and your body. So basically, this is your will and consciousness, this is your emotions and feelings, this is your thoughts and problem solving, and this is your body and everything that you gain. So, now we get to the tricky part. What time is it? Oh, shit. Nice, good timing. Now we get to the tricky part, which everybody disagrees with, and that is picking the pile. So, we have put the deck in these 4 piles, and our significator that we chose is in one of these piles. And now, the Crowley method says you have to pick one of the piles, or actually you have to find the pile that has a significator in it. And this is where different traditions say different things, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to say my experience. We're going to have other operations further on, and in each operation, you divide the deck in different piles, and you have to choose the pile that has a significator. You have to guess it. And if you guess wrong, you have to abandon the divination. It means that the angel Heru is like, no, fuck no, not gonna happen. Go try again later. Some people say try in 2 hours, some people say try in 1 day. But I was like, fuck you, I will do this. And for the 1 year that I did this reading every day, I went all the way. I didn't give a shit if I took the wrong pile or not. And this is something that other practitioners do. And some interesting things happen in this, and that was, it works fine if you pick the wrong pile, it's okay. But when you pick the right pile, oh my God, that's so fucking accurate. It's like the angel is right there. And finally, I came with this idea to rationalize what is going on is, if the piles are right, if you pick the right pile, it means that you are more ready to receive the message. The message will become much clearer. You can read it, you can understand it. You don't have to think and try to see, okay, how? You're just like, oh, yeah, this is it, this is completely it. And there's nothing difficult for the way that the reading progresses. And you can look at it from the Jungian perspective of synchronicity, which means that your subconscious is ready to receive. So the synchronicity happens, that you pick the right pile. And if you pick the wrong pile, it means there's no synchronicity, there's no connection between your unconscious and the conscious. So it doesn't matter however you do it. But one thing I can say is that we are going to write this down. We have to write down. We will get to the last stage where Crowley talks about what you need to do after. And one of the main things is you need to write down this method after it's done. After you're done with the reading, you write down whatever happened. Also, yesterday here we were talking about, there was the hypnosis trance workshop also, and they also talked about this, that you write it down and you put it in paper and then you use it later because it's important. That's like the most important thing. It's like running a business without a bookie. How do you run a business without taking accounts of what's going on? So you write down. Okay, how many times did I say write down? Okay, so if you pick the wrong pile, you don't have to write down. That's how I do it. I pick the right pile, and I say, oh, messages. I write it down. I pick the wrong pile, and I'm like, okay, I did the invocation. I'm here. I put the candles and everything. I'm just going to read anyway, but I'm not going to write it down. So that's the method that I found, that I write down everything that the right pile tells me. So now, another thing that you're going to write down right now to remember is that the first operation, it's not that important if you pick the wrong pile, meaning you don't actually pick a pile. You're not going to pick a pile. We're not going to pick a pile right now. We're going to just find the significator and continue the reading. But it's fun to be like, okay, we are at a culture, and I'm feeling fiery today. So let's see if it's in the fire pile, in the yod pile. And if it's not, it's okay. I'm not going to stress over it. But if it is, it's going to be like, ooh. So it's not. But it's fine. It doesn't matter. Because the first operation is always about right now, which we will get to. It's about a kind of a reassessment, like grounding yourself in the situation that you're in. You had a question, and that question came from a place of distress a bit, because that's when you do tarot readings, right? You're a bit distressed. You're a bit like, I want to know things. I need guidance. Can someone guide me, please? And the first operation is for you to be grounded and be like, okay, lose that distress. This is the pattern that is happening for you right now, and that's why you're here. And we are in the earth pile. And do you remember last night, I told you I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pick a pile, and I will probably pick the earth pile. Do you remember that? So I changed my mind when I saw your faces. So it was your influence that made me pick the wrong pile. So we have the earth pile, and can you do the honors? We put the other decks on the side. We don't need them anymore. And we do, okay, let me actually show them to what's going to happen. So you have the whole pile. And then you find your significator. This is my significator. And you take everything that was in front of the significator, and you put it behind the deck. And you have a whole deck with the significator on top. This is important because the arrangements of the cards should not be changed. This way, the arrangement is not changed. It just has been turned in a way that the significator is in the front. Because what we're going to make is a circle, and I want the significator to be at the top of that circle. Normally, they create a horseshoe. You can see it here. Let me show. And come on. See, there is a horseshoe. And significator is, for example, here, or it's here. And when you're doing the reading, you will see you go in a certain way, and then you come back. So I was like, instead of doing a horseshoe, let's just make it a circle, because it's more aesthetic, and you can square the circle. I'm not going to say what that means. So in order to make it into a perfect circle without changing the arrangement, is that you take everything that is in front of the significator and put it in the back, and you have the significator on top. And then you arrange it in a circle around. No, wait. Can you do it this way? Just like come here, yeah. So there are two things that we are going to do with this circle. Oh no, this is not the one. We are going to do two operations on this circle. One is counting. The other one is, oh shit, what was the other one called? Oh, my mind. Pairing, thank you, Jesus. And the pairing is simple, so I didn't write it down. I will just show it to you. But counting is a bit complicated, and it's the place where you're taking pictures, nice. And you can find this on the websites everywhere they talk about it. I'm just going to say it. Counting means that you have your significator card, and then you start counting from that card to the next card. And from the count, the number that is for each card, you land on another card. And that card also has a number. And then you count from that as well. And then you keep counting and picking these cards until you reach a card that was before. If it's a bit complicated, I will demonstrate it, don't worry. Just saying it. And each card has a number attributed to it. Oh, we have it? Can you do the counting? Yeah, the counting also. Yes, no, this way. Yeah. So the aces, the 4 aces, count as 11 because 11 is the number of magic, according to Crowley at least. And the other minors, from 2 to 10, you count based on their numbers. So 2, 3, 4. And then you have the knights, the queens, and the princes. Not princesses, princes, the knights or the kings. You count 4 for each of them because they relate to the 4 letters of Tetragrammaton, or more accurately, the 4 characters in the Hebrew Kabbalah, which is the long-faced one. Sorry, the Abba, the Amma, the short-faced one, and the daughter. But That's why it's 4. You count knights and kings and queens, 4. Princesses are different. You count them 7 because they represent the 7 palaces of Malkuth. And again, the 7 palaces of Malkuth reach out to Merkaba tradition, which was even before Kabbalah. And it's that, and when you enter the kingship of God, you have to go through 7 palaces. And after 7 palaces, you reach Malkuth, which is the realm of the throne of God. And princesses represent those. So you count 7 for princesses or pages. That's for the Rider-Waite system. And then for the majors, we have 3 types of majors. We have elemental majors, planetary majors, and zodiacal majors. This comes from Sefer Yetzirah, which says the 22 Hebrew letters are divided into 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, and 12 zodiacal letters. And since the 22 Hebrew letters are attributed to the 22 major arcana, that's how they are divided. We have the elementals, the 3 elements, because in Hebrew, or at least in Sefer Yetzirah, instead of 4, we have 3. Not going to get into that. We have Fool as the element of air. We have the Hanged Man as the element of water. And we have the Judgment card, or the Aeon card, as the element of fire. So for these 3 cards, you count 3. And then we have the planetary numbers, the planetary cards, which are Magus, Magician, Mercury, High Priestess, Moon, Empress, Venus, Wheel of Fortune, Jupiter, Mars is the Tower, and the Sun is the Sun. And finally, Saturn is the world. And for these, you count 9, the 7 planets and the 2 nodes of the moon, which, funnily enough, we do have 9 planets. Okay. And then we get to the final one, which is the zodiac, the 12 ones. I'm not going to read all of them because it's too long. But it takes some time to understand this. I know it's difficult. You can have the sheet next to you when you're doing it, but it actually helps. This is what this method is about. You understand the attributions and the correspondences of the cards when you do this. That's the whole point. So now I'm going to take a picture and put it here. Bear with me. If you have any questions, do you have any questions? While I'm doing this, I can answer some questions. How did you do this?
Do you have to use the Crowley deck, or can you use any deck?
You can use any deck, actually. It doesn't matter. But I think, actually, it is best to use a deck that you feel most comfortable with, because the pictures of the cards don't matter in this reading. You're not going to look at a card and get some meanings. It's the relationships that they create. So if you pick a deck that you can just understand by just looking at it, it's best. If you don't know Crowley's deck, you have to be like, what was this again? Oh, okay. So it's going to take some time for you. But the method is designed for you to be really fast in reading everything that is happening. Sorry?
And 78 cards.
Yes, all cards. Yeah. Yes?
This indicator, I read that the code cards rule specific types of years. Should I choose my significator based on my birthday? Which card rules?
Yes. So how it works is, okay, what is this? 10 Bluetooth on. I'm airdropping, so I'm doing double work. So there are different methods of, not different methods. There's only one system that talks about how the zodiac attributes to the major arcana, to the court cards. And yes, open. Come on. Can you see what's happening? Oh, yeah. So, wow, this is horrible. But it doesn't matter. You just need to see this thing that I'm here, and I pick the card up, and I will show it to you. So there's a decan wheel, and I can show it to you after. And looking at that, and knowing your zodiac, like having your chart and the degrees, you can find where your significator is. You can use either your sun or your ascendant. You can choose. Some clients that come to me, they don't know their time of birth or they don't have their chart. So I just use their sun card, which is their birthday, and that's the easiest, and it also works. Yeah.
But did it have to correspond to a core card?
Yeah, well, like I said, you can use any other deck. Sometimes I use major arcana cards. Sometimes I use their birth.
Your significator?
Yeah, for the significator, yeah, you can use any card you want. But I find court cards to be more accurate because they're characters. The minor arcana cards are like acts, and the major arcana are like stories. So it works, it functions, it's quite nice. Sometimes I do that as well. But when I want to do serious work, and I'm doing magic, so I use my significator, and that's where it is. So, where is it? Why is it not the right way? Ocean. Let me. Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. So for the 4 piles, yes, I am doing because it's Hebrew, and it's the name of God, and you're working with the name of God and magic, and of course you have to learn from right to left. That's obvious. It becomes anyway. But here, so we have the court card up there. Does this have a light? No, it doesn't have a light. Does this have a pointer or something? Like a laser? I don't think so. It's fine. So we are on top as my significator, and now you have to start counting from right to left, or from left to right. And this is Crowley says, start counting from the direction that the court card faces. And this is also another reason why you should use court cards, because it's a face that makes a direction. Also in the minor arcana of the Rider Waite, they do face. But anyway, so it says the direction that it faces, but the dilemma is, where is this guy facing? Is it left or right? It's coming to my face. You can't think of the lion going that way. Yeah, okay. But it's like looking right at me. So where is it? Is it left or right? And I tried all different methods of finding which way to go. But basically, it doesn't matter. Just like pick a way, pick a lane. It doesn't matter, seriously. Some practitioners go one way, and then they do the other way as well. So to see which one fits better. But I'm like, okay, just pick a way and just do. It's fine. And right now, I just was like left, because left. And we're going to start counting. So the first one is a prince, so it's 4. And we count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we reach here, the 10 of swords. You have a 10 of swords. And then 10 of swords, it's a minor card. We count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We reach the 3 of discs. So it's also 3, 1, 2, 3. We reach the prince of swords, which again is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We reach, which one is it? The queen of wands. And the queen of wands is again 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We reach the the princess of discs. And princesses are 7 because of the 7 palaces. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we reach the emperor, right? Empress. You should change that. The empress, where was the empress? Yes, the empress here. And the empress is a planet, Venus. So we have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we have the 5 of discs. And the 5 of discs is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come back where we started. And that's where it stops. The counting stops. And these cards that we picked are the cards that we're going to read. And this is where it becomes tricky. It is the trickiest moment. And I think you all came here for this moment. But I'm going to disappoint you because I'm not going to do it. Crowley says, make a story of these cards. This story is that of the beginning of the affair. And that's it. I'm like, what? What do you mean make a story of these cards? what do you mean? How am I supposed to make a story of these cards? What do they mean? Is it like, because everything that you know about tarot readings is like, okay, pick 3 cards. This one is past, this one is present, and this one is future. I'm like, okay, I can work with that. This is past, this is present, this is future. But where is this? What is this? What am I going to do with all these? And that's for you to find out. So I'm not going to say how it's done. You have to make a story of these cards. That's the way it goes. That's you as a tarot reader. That's who you are. I can give a really fast reading right now because it is a reading, after all. So, see me do my magic. Yeah.
Because you chose the card last night and changed it this morning, and it turned out to be the one that you...
No, it's like I said, the first...
Has that sort of told you that actually you're right in the first place?
No. So like I said, the first operation doesn't matter. It's just fun. You know, it's a fun sentence. I said, yeah, last night I was thinking about this. And sometimes I am thinking of, okay, I'm going to pick the air pile. But then I change my mind and pick the other one. Yeah, it's in the moment, and it's just fun for the first operation. Because the first operation, you have to do it, and it's part of it. You're sitting down. But the second and third operations, if you make a mistake there, that's when you have to abandon. So I'm just going to take, and there were so many cards. So let's see. So many cards, right? It's so difficult when it's too many cards. But it can make a story. So... From the significator, we went to the 10 of swords, which is okay. And then after the 10 of swords, we went to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 3 of discs, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, something is coming. What time is it? Can someone tell me the time? Okay, so we are in the element of earth, and the significator comes back after doing some acts and changing perspective from the Knight of discs, the Prince of the Prince of Wands, to the Prince of Swords, to the Knight, to the disc. Yeah, there are so many characters involved here. It's more difficult than I thought, especially since I have only 8 minutes to finish this. And there's only 4 operations left. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this down here. And then after we're done, then I will do this when everyone is gone. And then you can talk about it. Can we have the questions by the end? Because I'm just going to run through the other operations because it's the same. So let's assume that we made a story out of this, which is so hard now. I've never done this in front of so many people. In like 2 minutes, that was a mistake on my part. So you make a story out of this. And let's imagine the story is that I tried, with the 10 of swords, I failed into coming up with this. And I tried to incorporate the Prince of Swords to come up with something. But because of Queen of Wands, who says, your time is short, I gave up. And I was like, let's do the Prince of Discs and finish this whole thing. And then the Empress is like, okay, that's exactly what you need to do. But come back to it with the 3. And then with the 5 of discs, I'm just like, okay, I don't need to worry about anything. And we can do this. And come back to the significator card, which continues. So this was the first thing that you do with the circle. The second thing that you do is called pairing. And how the pairing works is that you have the significator on top, and there are 2 cards at either sides of it. You pair these 2 cards. You put them together, and you look at them as a pair, just like you do when you do 2-card readings, that they influence each other, and you see what that the influence is. And then you do this with the second 2 cards, and then this next one, and then the 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 next one. Sorry, I miscounted. And then finally, we reach the last one with the significator. So you put the cards on either sides of the significator, pair them 2 by 2, going around the circle. Yeah? Does that make sense? And you make a story out of this. So you create 2 different stories. One story with the counting, another story with the pairing. And these two stories complement each other. And this is why I put everything in a circle. Because if you put everything in a circle, you can have both the normal story, like the counting story, and the pairing story at the same time in front of you. But if you do the horseshoe, you have to pair by changing the cards. You have to rearrange things, and you lose the counting system. But this way, you can have both of them at the same time. And some people, I'm not pointing any fingers, it's a bit difficult for them to do this, and they do have to do the pairing. Sorry. So, but for me, who is a visual person and can do this, this is the way. But you can find your own way also. So, and you do these two things, and you create the story. And the story in the first operation is the place that you are. It's everything that is right now, why you came up with this. And one thing, thank you for mentioning that I should say this, is that the card that the counting stops is important, because it creates a loop. For now, the loop was the beginning as well. And sometimes the loop is like, for example, you go, and you reach this card, and then you reach this card, and then again you reach this card, and then you reach this card, and then again you reach this card, instead of doing the whole thing. Either way, this loop is important. This loop is the pattern that you're in right now. This loop is the thing that you had the question about. You want to get out of this loop. This is what this loop is representing. So when the story, you create a story, and the last sentence of that story should be, and it repeats itself thusly. So here is that I come back to the significator card, and the repetition is that I should stop repeating myself and go to the next one. So we have the next, does it, oh yeah, it's another thing. So we talked about the first operation. Now we go to the second operation. Unfortunately, we're not going to get into it. But so this is where it gets a bit tricky, in the sense that I changed Crowley's system. And in Crowley's system, we have 5 operations. But through 4 years of doing this method, I changed that into 4 operations instead of 5 operations. Because in Crowley's system, the first operation is the 4 elements, or the 4 letters. The second operation is 12 zodiac houses. The third operation is 12 zodiac signs. The fourth operation is 36 decans. And the fifth operation is the Tree of Life, the 10 Sephiroth. And I did it a lot. And it always felt off to me that I do 2 zodiac-based or astrology-based operations. And it always felt like off. So I merged them together. And was like, okay, we just do 1. And the decans was so huge. It's like 36 cards, and it's so far in the reading, and it gets so complicated. And also in the Golden Dawn system, they didn't get into that part also. So I kind of like removed that, because I never got any good information from that operation. And instead of that, I added the planets. So I added the second operation as the planets, the third operation as the zodiac, and the fourth operation as the Sephiroth. We will get to that. But before we get to the fourth operation, this is why I made this. This is my, we will get to it, don't worry. So the second operation, this is why I did this. First operation, 4 elements right now. Second operation, 7 planets, it's your whole week. Each pile is for 1 day of the week. This is where it gets a bit to the future, what's going to happen in the next 7 days. And where the significator is in either of these cards represents the thing that is going to be talked about. The story that is going to be told in that pile is going to happen on that day. So for example, we do this again. We could, but no time. And we pick the pile, and it was in this pile, which is the Mars pile, which is Tuesday. So the things that is here is going to talk about what's going to happen on Tuesday. And I did this, and I'm doing this, and it's always freaking accurate. I don't know how it works that whatever it says is going to happen on Tuesday, it fucking happens, except for if I choose the wrong pile. So if you choose the wrong pile, and then you do the reading anyway, it's not going to happen on that Tuesday, but it's going to happen on a Tuesday. And it did. It worked. I was like, holy shit, why is this so freaky? But it's not only about the day, it's also about the planet as well. So what does Mars mean? What does Venus mean? So you have to know all these things and kind of bring it. And so yeah, you can take this picture, and this is how you arrange the 7 planets, and then you pick from the planets. One minor note, also you can keep this in mind, that in the first, you can choose 2 times. If you pick once and you can't find a significator, you can choose another one, and this time, like, you have 2 tries basically. If you fail on the second try, then it's over. But the first try is okay. Yeah?
I can't see the glyphs.
I will give it to you later. Yeah, whoever wants these, come back to me after. So this is the second operation, which is the day of the week. So it's about the next 7 days. And then the third operation is the zodiac. So it comes about the whole year. What's it going to be, the whole 12 months? And the significator that is in the pile is about what's going to happen in that area. And again, you can choose. For example, the reading is about a project, and that project is going to happen in May, and then you pick the Tarot's pile. Or you are in a pickle right now, and you don't know what to do, you look at the pile that you're in right now, which for now is Scorpio, because we just entered today to Scorpio. So you just pick the pile of the month that you're in right now, or you want the thing to happen. And if it's not there, again, you have 2 strikes, like you can choose 2 times. And if you fail in these 2 times to pick the pile that has a significator, you have to abandon the divination. So after you do all these things, the first operation, 4 elements, second operation, 7 days, the third operation, 12 zodiac, and you come to the last operation, which is the Tree of Life. Okay, maybe it's a sign that I shouldn't have done this. Because this is the Tree of Life that I made out of my decolonization process, and this is what I came up with. You can't see it at all. It is also in Persian, and I put the letters and everything in, but it doesn't matter. You can see the Sephiroth, and that's enough. So you put the pal into these 10. But, there's one thing I didn't say. I'm so sorry. In the first operation, you pick you cut it yourself. But in the other ones, the planets and the zodiac and the Sephiroth, you actually deal the cards. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you continue on that. And also for the zodiac, the same. 1, 2, 3. You just do it instead of cutting. The first one is there where you cut. But in all the other 3, you have to deal the cards. So, and then in the last file, which is the 10 Sephiroth, this is where it gets interesting. So out of many times that I did this, and there were some times that I was tired or I picked the wrong pile and I didn't reach the Sephiroth, but in the ones that I did reach the Sephiroth, I read that reading today and it makes sense still. So when you reach this state, it's for your entire life. Or at least I've been doing this for 4 years, until these 4 years. Come back to me on my deathbed and I will tell you if it still holds true or not. But for now, when you reach this and you pick, for example, the Netza pile, this one, and then you read the things that are happening there and you write them down, what is written down there is here forever. And that is the reason why you need this huge level of synchronicity of the first operation, second operation, and the third operation to reach the state where the message is so deep inside your subconscious. And then, if you know Kabbalah, it mirrors back into the universe, and the message is all around as well. So, what time is it? I think I don't have time. What time is it? Okay, good. I'm sorry. 5 more minutes. Nice. Perfect. Well, perfect for your questions. We can do this. So, now we get to the last paragraph of this chapter. So Crowley talks about this, Like this gives all of these things, and then comes to the last chapter, last paragraph. And this last paragraph has shaped my entire magical practice. The abuse of divination has been responsible more than any other cause for the discredit into which the whole subject of magic had fallen when the master Therion undertook the task of its rehabilitation. We are all here, and we consider ourselves as a kind of subculture, kind of anti-culture even, and like the runs of society. But magicians and magic was not like this always. Go back thousands of years ago in Persia, my homeland. If you wanted to be a king, you would be sent into the schools of magicians, and they would teach you magic, and then you become king. If you didn't go to the school, and if you failed those schools, you would not be allowed to be king. The kingship would go to another child of the king who did do that. It was this level of magicians, of being a magician. You were the highest point of society. And we are in this state that we have tarot talk, and I'm not blaming tarot talk or saying that it's bad, but when you talk to a normal person about witchcraft or magic, and they're like, are you crazy? What is this? We have reached this because the abuse of divination, because they took this art as a, I don't know what to call it, capitalism, whatever it is. They did not take this seriously as a transcendental art. And Master Therion, again, is Crowley. He's jacking himself off again, saying, I'm the best one who's going to rehabilitate magic. Oh, yes. I'm doing the same thing. Okay. Those who neglect his warnings and profane the sanctuary of transcendental art have no other than themselves to blame for the formidable and this word. Yes, English is my second language, sorry. Irremediable, yes, disasters which infallibly will destroy them. So if you take tarot and magic with a profane approach, with a hobby, with being like, okay, this is fun, this is cute, without doing the work, without doing the research, without doing the proper preparation and meditation and doing the whole pillar and everything, if you do it without that and just like, yeah, I'm just gonna draw a card and stuff like that, you are profaning the sanctuary of transcendental art. And what happens is you will face formidable and irremediable disasters which infallibly destroy you. Things will happen to you and change you in a certain way that you will feel destroyed. And you cannot even explain it, and you cannot even see it. And you have no other to blame. Prospero is Shakespeare's reply to Dr. Faustus. And I don't have the permission to explain what the last line is, because I've been working for 4 years to understand what Prospero is Shakespeare's reply to Dr. Faustus means, and it's my next project, and you're gonna have to wait for that and see it later. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.